This morning, we're exploring the historical development and evolution of Heritage Day in South Africa, a day that is observed every year on this particular day, also a public holiday here in South Africa. From the time it was a Shaka, a King Shaka Zulu Day, all the way to Heritage Day, and now marketed as Braai Day, we explore this evolution. Continue this conversation with Mkhulu Nsingiza, CEO of Zindzi Mandela Foundation, historian, and the student of Afrikan Philosophy. We'll also be joined on the line by Nonhlanhla Noni Moroenyane, who's a herbal healer, indigenous chef, and the founder of Noni's Home Dish, which is a really great culinary business that teaches a blending of ancestral wisdom with community healing through music. Mkhulu, I want to come back to you before we bring Noni into this conversation. Culture is an evolution on its own, isn't it? And it's really good that you mentioned that just yesterday was the day of the African New Year, a day that many of us don't observe, and many in fact don't even know about it. But the very next day is Heritage Day in South Africa, a day that we do know about, and we're just happy to celebrate a public holiday, also to come together and braai some meat, be with family and friends. Is cultural evolution not something that we should continue to observe, or should we evolve in a way that still remembers the core of what culture actually means?
The core of our culture should be lived. It's not set in stone. It evolves according to our own way of life. It can be okay if somebody would then, suggest that we should infuse our culture with the modernity. That is wrong, because it's something that you would never find in other nations. The Jewish people have their culture and they're proud about their culture. Mm-hmm. The Chinese, as well as other nations as well. But we on the continent are then expected to then fuse the two, modernity, which is mostly Western influence. So African culture is lived. It's not something that you just intellectualize, about. So that's the difference. We've got to live it and be proud to be Africans. Especially knowing the history and the heritage of the continent, every African must be proud and live and then choose that culture as the culture of choice. That is, that's when we will return our respect in this global stage.
Noni, I want to bring this to you. Happy Heritage Day. And I want to start this conversation with you as we started with Mkhulu to find out what Heritage Day means to you. Mkhulu said, for me, it means nothing at all because as it stands, it doesn't really show, the worth of our cultures here in South Africa. What does it mean to you?
First, I'd like to greet everyone that is watching, and I would like to greet everyone that is here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
On this very, very beautiful day. It is the African New Year, and we've just returned also from a celebration back home to come celebrate our culture, who we are. And I'm also really grateful to be sharing this conversation with Mkhulu. It is an honor, a massive, massive honor. Thank you so much for having me. So heritage to me, I'll be really honest, is that when I saw the kids dressed up yesterday, I think they were going to school, they were all dressed up in their traditional, and I just felt like it's beady, like a leaf above water, just floating, and it's then going to be taken away as soon as the wind or the water is going to be washed off. Then it's done. For me, I thought, why are we just choosing a day to be us? Mm-hmm. Why are you allowed to be you for a day? And not even you are doing it because everyone else is doing it. There is no depth to it. There's no story to it. You don't know what you are wearing. You do not understand the color of the beads you are wearing. You do not understand why you have the skins, and you don't know where they come from or who made them, and you're wearing it, and then you're gonna go put it away again in the suitcase and bring it back again the following year. Yeah. So it is really, really, really a sad story for me. Mm-hmm. And I will know that there is hope because You know, when I logged onto my status, WhatsApp and everything, everyone was saying Happy New Year. And I said, we are here.
Mm-hmm.
We are here. That means we are going to be changing the story.
Yeah.
We are changing the story, and we have to start with the kids who go to school and dressing up the way they do for one day. That's not cool.
Yeah, Noni, let's talk a little bit about that, because transforming that means that we have to have a real cultural epiphany as a nation and as a people here on the continent. But the thing is, who's going to be that driving force to something more authentic, as you're just saying, that it feels like something that's flippant, something that's superficial, and that's layered in just a Western ideal?
Ooh, well, I guess also as you know, we call ourselves traditional leaders. We call ourselves the mothers, the fathers of this culture, of this heritage that lives with us, that is us. You know, we need to start changing language as well. You know, we need to understand when we say heritage and we say Bright Day, you understand what that, you put those together and see if they make sense for you in your home. And if they're not making sense for you in your home, we need to then start the unlearning process. It has to be gentle, but it has to be firm as well. We need to start unlearning the terms that we have brought in now that are confusing this whole story. It's confusing so much, you know, because now you're wanting to link heritage and then there's a braai and then it doesn't come together, you know, and then now one day it's going to just break and fall apart, and then you're going to now show up with a t-shirt and a jeans at your heritage celebration and it's okay. You know?
Let me tell you something, you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
You know, I want us to speak a little bit more about the unifying factor, but for now we actually have to go to our news break. So I'm hoping both yourself, Mkhulu, and you, Noni, can join us a little bit later after our news break to continue this conversation, because it is so interesting and so intriguing, and I want us to dive deeper into that, because in a country like ours and many other countries on the African continent, we exist under so many cultures, so many traditions. So what is the unifying factor? And is that marketability not the unifying factor that we seek to say, yes, we are different, and yes, there are different cultures that we want to observe, but what is it that makes us one? And maybe that is the braai, unfortunately, you know, that it seems like, you know, is so fickle in the way that we celebrate, but perhaps there is something that we need to say, we are different, but we are still one. What could that be? What could that be?
It's so tricky because we're so diverse, we're so colorful as a continent. I want to get your thoughts on this one. We've got our On The Move poll on this subject matter at Channel Africa 1 on X. We're asking, Heritage Day began as Shaka Day, but is now tied to Braai Day. What does this shift mean for us? Give us your take on that conversation that we're having right now, which is lovely with our guests at Channel Africa 1 is that X handle. Let's move on right now, get the latest sports update. It's 9:30 Central African time.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It's a very good morning from the sports desk. I am Mosibudi Makura with the latest sports news at the Sawa. So the junior world 400-meter champion Udeme Okon has described competing in the 4x400-meter relay final at the World Senior Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan, where South Africa ended an 8-year medal drought as the best feeling of his young career. So the 20-year-old was the youngest athlete in the final, running alongside Wade van Niekerk, Zagi Tinene, as well as Lyth Pillay. Okon, who's also coached by Lau Wenzel, told SABC Sport that winning a bronze medal at the senior level ranks among the biggest achievements of his young career, admitting that he never even expected to return home with a medal hanging around his neck. Now, Team South Africa sent a total of 48 athletes to Tokyo, returning with just one medal on Tuesday.
It was a good feeling, you know, running against guys that I look up to as well. It was just a thing of me going out there and keeping my head straight. Obviously, I couldn't see anything, but, you know, I could obviously still continue running. I didn't care what that didn't stop me. So I just went out there and do what I enjoy.
So Ogon ran the race of his life in very difficult conditions, battling a heavy downpour in Tokyo. He managed to hand the baton to his idol and 400-meter world record holder Wade van Niekerk, who then passed it to Zindzi Nene to secure the bronze medal. He admitted that visibility was almost impossible under those weather conditions.
No, I couldn't see anything. You know, I didn't expect it to rain. Obviously, I compete with glasses, so I was just like, I didn't expect it to rain. So as soon as I saw the rain, I knew that, there's going to be a problem. You know, there's going to be a problem. But I was like, you know what? Let me just continue running. Getting into the back straight, I remember not seeing anything. And I was just like, damn. But I saw the other athletes cutting in, and I just continued running. I was like, you know what? Let me get into that home straight. And then seeing Wade there waving his hand up to me, I could see him. Then I was like, yeah, no, I'm good.
On to tennis news now. Novak Djokovic will return to action in Shanghai next month in his first tournament since the US Open semi-final defeat by Carlos Alcaraz. Organisers having announced the news of the Masters event on Tuesday. The Serbian has won the event 4 times and will be making his 14th main draw appearance as he looks to finish the season very strong after being shut out of the Grand Slams by world number 1 Alcaraz as well as the world number 2 Jannik Sinner. The 24-time Grand Slam winner has struggled to find a way past the duo dominating men's tennis at the moment in the last 2 seasons, and also said in New York that a best of 3 set matches gave him a better chance. The 38-year-old reached the final in Shanghai last year, losing to Sinner in straight sets. Now this year's tournament will run from the 1st until the 12th of October. Meanwhile, the former world number 3 Elina Svitolina has ended her season very early to focus on her mental health, with the Ukrainian saying that she is not in the right space following what has been a taxing season. Now, Svitolina, who returned to the circuit in 2023 following maternity leave, reached the quarterfinals of the Australian Open as well as the French Open this year, but lost in the 3rd round of Wimbledon and also went out in the first hurdle at Flushing Meadows. Svitolina, now ranked 13th in the world, said she needed time to rest as well as recharge. Svitolina, though, had a strong 2025, finishing with a 35-15 record with 1 title, which was the WTA 250 clay tournament in Rouen, France in April of this year. And finally, in football news, in case you missed it, Kylian Mbappe scored twice as La Liga leaders Real Madrid continued their impressive start to the season with a comfortable victory at Levante last night, with his side 2-1 ahead. The Frenchman's double in a space of about 2 minutes sealed the 6th win of their opening 6 games of the season to move them clear of the rivals Barcelona at the top of the table, 5 points clear, by the way. Mbappe got his first from the penalty spot in the 64th minute, chipping a Panaka over Levante goalkeeper Mathieu Ran. He then took his tally to 7 goals so far this season with a deft finish after being slipped in by Arda Güler. Earlier, Vinicius Jr. had put Real Madrid in front with a superb strike, bending the ball into the corner by the net with the outside of his boot from a very tight angle. Meanwhile, Barcelona can reduce Real Madrid's lead at the top of the table when they visit Oviedo on Thursday. Well, that concludes the sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Call us on +27 11714 4459. It's 9:35 a.m. Central African Time. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mkhulu Nsingiza.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Nonhlanhla has been charged with incitement to terrorism and disobedience. He faces a total of 5 charges. The charges relate to post-election violence that left hundreds of people dead. What punishment is he looking at?
The most severe charges are 2. One is incitement for terrorism, and also is being charged for mobilizing people for terrorism. vandalism during the protests. These charges are really serious and severe. If he is condemned, is found guilty, he could serve 10 years plus years in jail, meaning that he would be banned from political participation, mainly for the 2028 and 2029 electoral cycle.
The director of CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Adriano Novunga.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Thank you so much, Musibudi, for that sports update. Now let's move on to our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Benjamin, and a very good morning to our listeners. In our top business story at this hour, Morocco's central bank has kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged at 2.25%, citing ongoing global and domestic risks, including geopolitical conflicts and climate-related pressures, as some of the reasons for its decision. The bank expects the country's inflation to average 1% this year before picking up to 1.9% in 2026, while economic growth is projected to increase to 4.6% this year, up from 3.8% in 2024. Total Energy's sale of a minority stake in a Nigerian onshore oil producer has fallen through. The company says this is a setback to its strategy to sell mature polluting assets and pay down debt. Total agreed in July 2024 to sell its 10% stake in the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited to Mauritius-based Chapal Energies, but the regulatory approval granted for the sale last October has now been withdrawn because the two sides have not met the financial commitments required to complete the deal. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, addressing the UN General Assembly in New York, says trade is one of the most important instruments to mobilize domestic resources for development. He says it's concerning that geopolitical shocks and unprecedented trade policy volatility are destabilizing the global economy and jeopardizing a critical source of development. The president says unilateral trade practices and economic coercion have a detrimental impact on many nations. He told the Assembly that South Africa's G20 presidency calls for inclusive economies.
Our country's G20 presidency is a significant opportunity for South Africa to advocate for Africa's development agenda and to amplify African voices in global economic governance for a continent that is irreversibly on the rise. As member states of the United Nations, we have all adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. However, many of these goals remain elusive.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the tariffs imposed on South Africa by the administration of President Donald Trump were a wake-up call for the country.
What President Trump did was a wake-up call for us. Not so much because we were not trading with other countries, but a wake-up call in saying that we need to upgrade our relations, our trade relations with many other countries in the world. We are a repository of critical natural resources that we want the world to buy from us, but also buy from us from a value-added point of view.
The Russian Finance Ministry is proposing that the rate of value-added tax be raised to 22% from 20% beginning next year in order to balance the 2026 state budget and fund military expenditure. The ministry says it's also proposed other tax increases, including taxes on gambling businesses. It said the tax hikes are aimed primarily at financing defense and security, and that the draft 2026 budget is balanced and sustainable. And now for a look at the indicators. One US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,488 naira this morning. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 15. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 55. In Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 63. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 31. Russia, 83 rubles 59. In India, it's 88 rupees 67. China 7 yuan 11. South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 28 cents this morning. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,764 per ounce, platinum at $1,494 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $67.79 a barrel. And those are your business news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Headbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Heritage Month is a time to remember where we come from and celebrate where we are going. Channel Africa. Catch us on DSTV channel 802.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Hutokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini hauwezi kuendelea. Ukiona, ongea. Ikiwa unaumia, funguka, kwa sababu kutofanya lolote sio chaguo. Sikiliza vituo vyote 19 vya redio kuanzia Jumatano ya tarehe 23 Julai kwenye mijadala, ushauri, tamthilia, maonyesho ya elimu na mahojiano na wataalamu, manusura, watunga sheria na nchi nzima iliyoathirika na ukatili wa kijinsia kwenye vituo vyako pendwa vya redio. Piga simu 0800 428 428 ili kuripoti unyanyasaji au kupata msaada. GBV, ikomeshwe na wewe. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na shirika la SABC.
Get set and be ready to go. On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
Hey, you are listening to On the Move, and we're continuing our Heritage Day conversation with our guest today. Nonhlanhla Moroenyane is joining us on the line, herbal healer, indigenous chef. We've had her in studio many times. In fact, we keep inviting her to Channel Africa in different shows because we just love what she does with food. And she's also the founder of Noni's a Home Dish, which is a culinary business and a platform that blends ancestral wisdom with community healing. Mkhulu Nsingiza joins us as well on the line, CEO of the Zindzi Mandela Foundation, a historian and a student of African philosophy. Noni, you were really speaking about the authenticity in how we really celebrate heritage as Africans, right? And I was saying earlier on, like, we've got this reality that we are modern and we live in modernity, and we've got all these technological advancements that apparently are helping us progress as society, but we still are lacking that authentic experience of untapping our heritage. Where do we start in terms of unpacking that type of journey for us to unpeel the layers of the fakeness and the posing as being culturally aware and really make it like a true journey?
Wow. Thank you for that question. So, it all comes back home, right? And when I say home, I'm not just talking about a house, and it all comes back to you. It all comes back to the land. Right now, what is really, really big and speaking is the land. The land of Africa, which is our home. And this here holds so many elements of returning back to us, to our own land, which is our bodies, which is our mind, our spirits. So if the land holds the oldest knowledge and wisdom to this continent of ours, to its heritage, to its culture, then surely, if we go back to the land, we will definitely get to know who we are. But right now we forgot the land, and we forgot what the land really, really, really is. We are taking so much from the land. We are not cleaning it. We are not even thanking it for the food that it provides. On Heritage Day, food is such a big thing, you know. We cook our traditional foods. We do we do morojo and pap and all of that, and yet we still don't even know that the food that we are eating also does not come from this land. So if we can revisit, what is it that the land is saying right now? Let's listen to the land. What is the land saying? Is the land saying are we moving into the right in the right direction towards a connection? Are we moving in the right direction towards a completeness, a healing? As African people, when we finally get there, then we are able to welcome others now and say, oh, but this is what I do in my home. This is what Africa is about, and it must be real, it must be true. And this is something, when you walk into somebody's home and you can see really what they are. If you walk into my home, you will know who I am. And it is so beautiful. It is healing just walking into my home, because I have elements that represent everything that I am, and they are very much authentic. And then when you walk into somebody's home, you will respect what is there, and you will not be able to move it and say, oh no, move that there. No, no, no. You'll be afraid. In fact, you will ask for permission and say, may I, please? So let's revisit this land that we want so much, this land that is growing the food that is going to connect us, that is healing us. I work with food, and food for me holds the greatest spirit of this continent, the greatest spirit of our people. It holds the medicine, it holds wisdom, and it comes from the land. So if we can start going back there, that is the common thread that holds us, is this land that has one spirit. It has this voice that we can all hear, even though we are coming from different regions and languages, but we understand the land love language.
I love that you mentioned that, Noni, because, you know, the land is also quite a contentious issue to speak about here in South Africa and, of course, all across the African continent. But I want to come back and bring it to you, Mkhulu. I spoke before our break in the first part of our conversation about the unifying factor. We are a people that are diverse, and each one of us needs to celebrate our cultures as authentically as we can. But then what brings in that unifying factor? Because the reason why Heritage Day has changed so much from King Shaka Day, because that only spoke to a particular cultural experience, to Heritage Day, which was inclusive to all of us, and now Braai Day, which feels a lot more modern, but it's still seen as a unifying factor of one South Africa. For you, what would that unifying factor be without losing our authenticity?
I think the indigenous, cultures would be that glue. You see, the confusion we have is that as a country, we don't have an identity. If you can say, what is a South African identity? What is a South African culture? We are everything. We are a rainbow culture.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's no country that is like that. You go to Britain, it's only the British culture. You go to China, it's the Chinese culture. And they welcome, people from outside or people who came from outside. But those people have got to adopt that culture, like in Swaziland. You can't have a conglomerate of cultures in a country. Swaziland, it's only the Swazi culture. Even Chinese, white people who go there, they follow, the Swazi culture. It's only us as South Africans that are trying to accommodate all cultures from the world. And those people, where they come from one culture. So it's up to the leadership to lead people properly. You would never be able to lead a country that is made up of many cultures. No, people can individually practice their culture. The main culture must be African.
No, definitely. And I think that's where we'll wrap up this conversation. It's been quite a beautiful one indeed, and an important one on a day like this, Heritage Day here in South Africa. So thank you so much to both you, Mkhulu and Noni, for giving us your time on this beautiful day, especially because it should be a holiday and an observation of your own cultures and spaces at this time. So we appreciate you giving us your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That is Mkhulu Nsingiza, CEO of the Zindzi Mandela Foundation, a historian and a student of African philosophy. We also spoke to Nonhlanhla Noni Moroenyane, who is a herbal healer, indigenous chef, and the founder of Noni's Home Dish. What does Heritage Day mean to you